Hi, and welcome to More Human, More Resources, the HR podcast for entrepreneurs. I'm Vicki Brown, your host and CEO of Vidamaneo Enterprises. As a serial entrepreneur, I understand that having the right expert help has been critical to my success. That's why I'm dedicated to telling you, in plain language, what's going on in the world of HR that might impact your business and what you need to do about it, with real actionable tips to help you master that list of must-dos and grow your leadership muscle. First things first, the information contained in this podcast is provided for general purposes only and is not to be considered legal advice. Your decision to adopt or not adopt any practice or procedure mentioned in this podcast is solely yours, and we bear no responsibility for the outcome. We urge you to always consult legal counsel and other appropriate licensed professionals. And with that, let's get into the show. You're listening to Season 3, Episode 8. Delegate. You have to learn to delegate. You'll never get ahead or meet your goals if you don't learn to delegate. We hear an awful lot about delegating all the time, and when you really stop to think about it, it's an opportunity for you to pass work off your plate and give it to someone else. But how can you get clear on what should be delegated, what shouldn't, and when? You see, once you become a leader in your organization, you probably bring along a lot of hard skills talent. You know how to do the job. You know what needs doing and the best way to get it done. But once you move to a leadership role, no matter if you're leading a team or the whole organization, your job is less about doing than motivating and guiding others to do the thing. And your focus should be shifted to the long-range vision, what you're ultimately trying to accomplish, and the best path to get there. Now, don't get me wrong. How and how much you delegate really is impacted by the season the business is in. When you're just starting out, you're doing everything, and that's probably how it has to be. But once that season changes and the business becomes a bit more mature, well, then you simply won't be able to get your arms around it all. Well, let's start with what you should delegate. It's not just when you're feeling overwhelmed or doing something you hate. To be successful at delegating, it has to start way before that. You have to start out with knowing what it is you actually do. What are your tasks? Without that list, you'll never be able to figure out which one should be bumped from you to someone else. So, take a week, and as you go through your day, jot down what you're doing. Gathering data for that report, formatting this marketing piece, writing that proposal, making those prospecting calls. Write it all down. Create a list. Then, once you have the list, carefully review it. Can any of those tasks sit with someone else? Don't worry about who just yet. Just answer the question. Can it be done by someone else? And if you think the whole task can't be moved, try thinking about it in smaller pieces. Break it apart. Can some of those pieces be delegated? For instance, I can't delegate doing the podcast because I'm the one who has to record it. But what about research or script writing or even editing? Those are pieces that could potentially be done by someone else. All right, once you know what needs to get off your plate, now it's time to figure out where they should go. Approach this thinking process by figuring out what skills are needed to do the tasks, then evaluate if you already have those skills on your team. And if not, can you train them, or will you need to get new talent on board? And by the way, either way, you're going to have to do some level of training. So no matter which way you go, the very next step is creating the training or SOPs for the process. I'll do a more in-depth episode on how to create an SOP soon, but basically, it's writing down how you do what you do. You know, the steps. So, you'll use the SOP as the foundation for training. Simply train to the steps of the SOP. Now, we've talked about what to delegate and how to get people up to speed so you can confidently delegate to them. But there are a couple of things you have to keep in mind that are pivotal to making this successful. First, delegating does not mean abdicating. Oh yeah, I see you. You're trying so hard to avoid micromanaging or failing to really pass off the task or project that we let the pendulum swing too far in the other direction. We take a completely hands-off approach. Here, I've delegated this to you. Now take it and run with it. I don't need to know any more about it. Just come back to me when it's done. Well, my friend, that is not delegating. That's abdicating. Shifting everything to someone else and not taking any accountability. I gave it to you. It's your project now. If it flies or fails, it's all you. That's no way to treat the project or your team member. As the leader, you have the ultimate accountability. And besides, you have to give support, feedback, and guidance when and if it's needed. Now, don't get me wrong. What we don't need is a helicopter leader. You have to give the person some space. But don't just walk away either. Stay connected, check in, have them report on progress along the way. That way you won't find yourself at the end of the process staring at something very different than you expected. And finally, what shouldn't you delegate? Well, anything that is you critical. Things that require you personally. Recording or filming, public speaking, maybe writing, any and all vision work, and actually, leadership. Yeah, that's right. You're the leader, and you can't just pass that off to someone else. It's all you. So delegate some of those other things so you have the proper time and space to level up your leadership and steer the boat. If you found this information helpful, please leave a review and tell a friend. Thanks for spending the time. Until next week, same time, same place.